Ta-da! It's Wow Ergonomics back again to mess up your week and talk to you about things ergonomic and maybe not so ergonomic as well. But there's definitely an ounce of ergonomics in here today. I've been talking about ergonomics already this morning to my network group.
Right, okay.
Now, I've started going to a network group on a Thursday morning. Lovely bunch, mainly from sort of Liverpool area. I don't know why I chose there. I just thought I quite like the Liverpudlian accent. So,
and is this it's obviously with Liverpool accents, it's clearly a virtual group. You're not bombing up the
it's
motorway
a virtual group,
okay.
and they've all got their virtual Liverpudlian. Do you remember sort of like the wig,
the Kevin Keegan,
the Kevin
and then the moustache?
Yeah, that's it. Terry McDermott.
But also the Harry Enfield, wasn't it? When they called the Scousers.
Yeah, that's all that.
Are you allowed to get one as a sort of an honorary Scouser as being part of that
suppose
group?
I could. Yeah, actually, I might. We do a photo every week where it's a little. You have to bring a prop. My prop today was this, and someone went, "Is that a dinosaur? Dinosaur? You know what this is, don't you?"
I was going to say dinosaur. Turtle.
No, I'm not. I'm a Charmander. It's a Pokemon. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I brought that up, and someone said it was a dinosaur. But yeah, maybe another week for the prop. Maybe I will get there and the tash. That would be great.
I'm interested in this networking thing, Graham. So where did you pick up on it, and what sort of people are going? Is obviously it's for business development, but are you finding the sort of people who you could work with are attending that type of group?
Yeah, no, very much so. But you see, I'm very clever because I try and use these groups in two ways.
Okay.
So on the one hand, I go along to talk about me and what we do. On the other hand, I go along to talk about what clients do. You see?
Yeah.
So today she doesn't know it. She's waiting in the wings, right? But I actually put someone from the group today in touch with Jodie, who's our guest. Yeah, because she wanted some advice on, and it's quite an interesting subject. And actually, let's bring Jodie on to discuss it because it's a fascinating subject. So I'll get rid of this, and I'll do this. Way! Hi, Jodie.
Hello.
Hi, Jodie.
Hello. So
now I need to know what the fascinating subject is.
Well, so the subject was, and maybe we can talk about it very briefly here as well, is that she was saying, this young lady was saying that one of the things she struggles with is when she gets approached or she approaches somebody with a disability, she just basically goes tongue-tied because she just doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know which language she can use. She doesn't really know what she should be saying, what she shouldn't be saying. And she was saying, is there a resource out there? Is there anything that could just help me to just become more disability confident? And I said, I know just the person you need to talk to about that. But is that like the big problem for a lot of people, do you think?
It's a big problem for individuals, but it's a big problem for business because there's so much concern of getting it wrong or feeling like someone, they've insulted someone. The conversation doesn't start.
Yeah.
You just avoid the topic in case you get it wrong. Is that what you're thinking, Jodie?
Yeah, it's like if we say nothing, then we can't feel like we've done it wrong. But by saying nothing, by default, you're kind of getting it wrong. But as an individual, it can be hard because if you don't, live or work in a culture that, does talk about disability and is pretty disability confident, and you're trying to do it for yourself, then the reality is you usually do need a little bit of guidance and a bit of help. And of course, it's one of the things we do.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that came out of it, there was a lady that designs clothes for people that maybe have a limb missing or have a disability, so therefore standard clothes wouldn't fit. So
I love adaptive fashion.
So it's Absolutely. There's the key term, adaptive fashion. But what she was saying is that one of the issues that she comes up against, and it's something that I will help her with, but one of the issues she comes up against is that when she posts stuff on social media, quite often it gets taken down because certain social media platforms, not necessarily the ones that we're broadcasting on at this moment in time, but certain social media platforms, if they see anything to do with the word disability, or they see something to do with a limb missing, or this, that, or the other, because they don't want it to be of a social concern, they just take it down. Have you come across that with anyone?
No, and I think offline we need to have a chat about who they are, Graham, so I can have a little reach out. That's shocking.
Isn't it shocking? Yeah, I've got a feeling I probably know where it's coming from, and I'm going to offer some help in there as well, because I do think that one of the things that's take that first part of the conversation about people don't know how to approach somebody with a disability. I think one of the other things as well is platforms don't necessarily know how to approach someone with a disability as well, and therefore they can, if someone's making a particular noise, they might go take that down because we don't want to cause trouble here, etc. But I think that one of the things that a lot of people with a disability trying to get out there and trying to get their voice heard do wrong in terms of marketing is that actually they focus maybe too much upon doing posts, etc., about what it is that they do and all of that sort of thing, rather than activity like we're doing now. Because actually, I think that the main thing that helps those people sell is if they can get their story over. And I think it really is about the way that you aim it. And I also think they need to, and this is what I was saying to her, you need to align yourself with those people that are already making a great noise in that space and getting through the algorithm, because that's how you elevate yourself up to the top. If there are already people in that space where people are listening, get yourself aligned to those people. Yeah. So yeah, we'll put you in touch. Jodie, for those that haven't met you before, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. They might have guessed by now.
Yeah, you've probably guessed by now, but so I'm Jodie Greer. I am the founder of Be People Smart. So effectively, we are a consultancy for disability inclusion and accessibility. It's actually really broad. So we do lots of different things: workshops, strategic planning, lots of different things. Two of our newest things, actually. One, I'll plug the maturity model for two reasons. One, because I am biased, but it's great. So it's the most thorough out there, and it is really helpful if you're, not really sure how to differentiate between levels of maturity and so on, because it's a lot more explicit with a lot more detail, and because it's free. So we don't even know you've got it. So you can just download it from the website, bepeoplesmart.co.uk. And the other thing that we've recently introduced, and it's still building, but there's a few on the site at the moment, is a range of top tips and quick wins documents. So they're like one-pagers with 5 tips that literally you can start doing today. So the idea is they're not exhaustive, but they're a brilliant way to start shifting the needle in the right direction. So that's something else that we've recently launched to really help. And I can be very open and say they're not free, but we've made sure they're accessible to everyone, no matter where you are and what you're doing. So they're only £4.99 for each resource.
Bargain. There you go.
Bargain.
How necessary are things like that, Stephen?
What, in terms of being free, or in terms of the actual documentation?
Those kind of
huge. I think what if you sort of tie it back loosely to ergonomics, which is where we sort of started. That's sort of the rough theme of the show. But one of the things that wow, ergonomics gives it away, doesn't it? But actually, if you tie it back to ergonomics, it exposes a lack of knowledge on subject matter that's really important. And I think we, going back to 2020, Graham, when we started doing similar shows like this, we were talking about advising people around what they needed, what were things that were quite important for their business, but maybe they had no knowledge of. And obviously through this sort of platform and other platforms, we focused around ergonomics. But I think what Jodie's doing there is it's just helping a huge, broad number of organizations about an area they need to be aware of, but maybe previously have never sort of had that experience. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop to go and help people with really important subject matter that's impacting their business, but previously they've maybe never got involved in it. So it's a great place to go and get a huge sort of depth and breadth of information that's going to support all types of organizations.
Yeah. Now, Jodie, you do a podcast as well.
Yeah, and this is quite apt timing because the most recent one that's going to be coming out on Thursday is me and Stephen. So, yeah.
Yep.
But I mean,
imagine that.
I've got to be honest, the podcast for me is actually a lot of fun because I just get to talk to Graham. You've been a guest speaker as well. I get to talk to some brilliant guest speakers. They share their experiences, their knowledge, their expertise. And it's a chat. So people are kind of partaking in our coffee morning in a sense. Yeah. But we share so much different information. I mean, Graham, you and I obviously talked about, inclusive and accessible marketing and the difference it makes, as well as how easy it can be to achieve. Stephen, you and I obviously are talking ergonomics.
Yeah.
But there've been so many. And honestly, the range of information, there's so much out there to share with people. So I just get to facilitate and I get to talk to interesting people. I mean, win-win.
Well, what I'll do is in a minute, I'll let you give a little teaser for the conversation between you and Stephen, which was recorded a few months ago, I believe, in a second, so that, people really want to go and listen to that conversation. But let's talk about that marketing thing again, or the social media marketing area that we talked about. I commented with you and tagged you into a post yesterday. Quite clearly, somebody that makes their money, if you like, on social media out of doing film, and yet they put this great film up, which was really quite witty, quite funny, etc. But no subtitles at the bottom of it, and yet they were talking, or there was conversation within that thread about, this is the sort of thing we need to beat the scroll. The easiest way to beat the scroll in the first place is to make sure you've got captions in there, surely? Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw that and I just thought, wow, because obviously these are the things you need to do. And I just thought, okay, you kind of missed a really key one. And the thing is as well, it's not just about, because of course, if someone's hard of hearing or deaf, captions make the absolute world of difference if you can, take in information. But it's not just about that demographic even. It's about people. So lots of us actually use captions because, I don't know, we're on the move, as in on a train, not driving. So we're on a train or something. And actually, studies have shown that the younger generation, that makes me feel and sound old, but the younger generation often use captions these days just as standard rather than listening. So just don't even turn sound on. So without it, you're missing a massive trick anyway. I mean, it's essential for accessibility. We should all be doing it. There's no excuse these days. It's really quick and easy. But yeah, it's just, if you want to reach people, then you need to take the steps to reach them.
Well, it's because of the access point. And my son Addy, who's joining me in the business, he's been talking about that on our Friday show as well a little bit. But ultimately, the younger generation, this is their access point. Right? Yeah. So they're scrolling.
Anyone who can't see, Graham is scrolling up with his hands.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I actually need a phone. Yeah, but it still needs describing to people. Okay, so you're scrolling away with my hand up a phone, and the thing is that's the access point in terms of any kind of material. It's very short attention. It's, can you grab the attention of someone? And ultimately, as someone's mouth goes by and they're going like that, and you can't, because you don't get the sound at that point. If you think about most platforms, the sound is off until you engage.
Yeah.
Right. So all you're seeing is like that Graham miming in the background as he goes up the screen. But you know, so therefore, if the captions are there and you read what they're saying, and you can see it's funny because of the captions or whatever, you go, that's going to be funny. Click on it, then you're into the material. Otherwise, you would probably you might think, well, actually, they're talking about banking or something like that, or accounting, and you know, I don't really know, I don't like that sort of thing. So you know, you would just carry on scrolling. You know,
I mean, it's not my area of expertise, but surely that to me seems an absolute basic. That you would be putting captions on. I'm sort of struggling as to why would I not put, from what you've described, Jodie, in terms of the accessibility piece, and Graham, what you've just said in terms of the scrolling, is that just not like the most obvious thing that should be being done? It's an absolute top of the list.
I kind of get it when someone's like just starting out on social media, etc., and you know, they're trying to navigate themselves, and you know, maybe it's the first video that they've done, and you know, it's a lot for them to just even turn on the phone and point it at them and talk to camera. I get all of that, but when someone puts a post out there about, you know, this is me, this is what I do for a living, I beat the scroll with, you know, the brilliant video that I produce, and that video hasn't got captions at the bottom of it, I'm sitting there thinking, really? You know, it's a bit like saying, I write books for a living, but I don't use words. which might be really, you know, creative to the point of complete disruption, but actually it's rubbish. You know, it's like there's certain things in life where you think there's a logic to this. Right? It's like saying, I'm not going to give you a car until you can learn to drive, because otherwise that's mad, you know? And to me, it's that mental. If you're producing video content because you know this stuff, you know that actually putting captions at the bottom of it makes a difference in terms of your market reach, makes a difference in terms of accessibility, and you're not doing it, you're mad. You're absolutely bonkers, and you should be taken into account. And I will comment all day on that, as per my post this morning, which we'll talk about a bit later.
The other thing to bear in mind as well, because some people do have genuinely good intention and they think they've done the right thing, but they'll, for instance, they'll upload a video to YouTube and they'll create closed captions. So if you actually go into YouTube, you can choose to switch on captions or not. The problem with closed captions is they tend to be native, if you like, so they tend to sit within that particular environment. If you then embed it on another platform, they don't come with it. So you could link on another platform and you could link directly to it and someone can select. But it's why I'm a massive advocate of open captions. So when you play a video, they're just there, because then it doesn't matter where you share that video, it's accessible. You know, well, I say it's accessible, there's other things to bear in mind, but it's got captions, I can at least say. So that's another big thing, because I'm sure some people mean well, even organisations who specialise in inclusivity, sometimes, you know, they'll create on YouTube, for instance, on their channel, and they will absolutely and accurately transcribe in YouTube, but then, of course, any sharing that happens, it loses that accessibility. And I really think that it's just not recognised. I don't think people realise that's the case.
No, absolutely.
Are there any organisations, I guess, for a question for both of you really, any organisations who are particularly good at inclusive social media? You know, any sort of big brands or anything that you've sort of come across and thought, actually, they're consistently being very, very good with what they do? And on the flip side, are there equally any organisations you've seen who just you know, just not engaging with the whole accessibility social media piece? Are there any either end of the scale, any examples you'd want to share?
On the good side, I will actually plug Microsoft, actually, because I find when it comes to social media, certainly they are pretty good when it comes to making sure that information is accessible, but also because they do actively share accessibility messages as well. So although, you know, it does obviously feed into their products, and I'm not always someone who shouts their praises, I'll be honest, but certainly when it comes to messaging and so on, and I do think the intent's there, but I would say that they do it pretty well. I'll be honest, from the poorer end of the scale, how long we on it? I honestly, I think absolute vast majority of companies need to really step up, even to some of the fundamental basics, to make their communications far more accessible.
Yeah, let's say I can see this wind of change anyway in terms of hires within companies. I know someone that was really quite prominent in the world of disability and inclusion from an educational point of view, was hired into McDonald's a few years ago. Jodie, you might know Kelsey that works for McDonald's. Yeah,
great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think fundamentally it's really important that these companies start to hire these people into their organizations so that they can start to impact a change. People that really do actually understand, as opposed to, I think what has happened in the past is that with the big organizations as well, is that someone would just be given that job. It's kind of like, oh, we need to be a bit better at that. So Keith, you kind of like disabled people. Can you do that? Yeah, it's like, but Keith didn't have a clue. They're now, larger organizations now are looking towards expertise. We're going to see it's a little bit like organizations in terms of things like sustainability. I think we're going to start to see the gulf between one organization and another. Those that have got it, those that understand it, and those that really don't. And there will become a point where, and this is where people need to really start thinking about this, there will become a point where it informs decisions about buying. Yeah. And if anyone wants a reason why they need to do these things, it should be that, because you're going to start losing clients. Because there will become, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think we do also have to be really cautious of tokenism. So when I say tokenism, there's often this tick box exercise that can happen where someone said, well, no, we employed a disabled person in X role. That's great. Obviously, if they're the right person for the job, they've got all the right experience, that's great. But of course, for that reason, but also that person, will have lived experience for themselves and will have a really good, take on a similar disability to their own. But if you want to achieve real inclusion, not only do you need someone with that kind of passion and drive, but you also need more voices. And that's where the likes of disability networks or employee resource groups, ERGs, a lot of companies call them, that's where they play a massive part. So you need lots and lots of people to feed in. So I'm openly currently non-disabled, as I call myself. No one knows what tomorrow brings. And everything I've learned has come from literally thousands of people with different disabilities sharing the goods, the bads and the uglies, and, the barriers and the successes. And I've kind of amalgamated all of that into the way I support organisations to set their strategies and educate their staff and so on. And it's really important, because I could never just sit in a room as Jodie Greer and tell you right and wrong. It has to come, I don't want to say from the horse's mouth, that's probably not the nicest term, but it has to come from the people that live it. And that's where I'd say 99% of my learning outside of any kind of classroom setting has come from over the years.
Right, now we're going to tease the conversation with Stephen that you had in a minute. But first of all, I just want to do a solo layout with you, Jodie, so that we can do a little bit of inclusion here. Jodie's got, for those that are visually impaired, she's got a lovely background, Zoom type background in the background there with her logo and B #people smart, disability inclusion and accessibility specialist. But also you have a number of, I can only take it, fake photos.
Excuse me, they are real photos that I have taken.
Okay, all right, real photos, but which are fake in terms of the fact that they're actually hanging on a wall, but which are framed behind you. So do you just want to take us through those? What have we got there?
I can't see me anymore, and I can't remember what ones I put on there.
Okay, so there seems to be, looks like Niagara Falls in there, yes. Maybe.
Is one of them Toronto? No. Chicago?
Yes, the tower. Yes, that's Toronto.
Toronto, yeah, the tower. Yeah, it's a good.
I'm testing your geography here.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Not
One of them
sure.
looks African. Does it look like some sort of plains of Africa, maybe?
It's got
Oh,
some
it might
kind
be
of,
Canada.
oh yeah, some things coming up with like
Yeah.
a T shape, like a golf tee coming up out of the woods. What's that? Is it Tiger Woods' back garden? Maybe. I don't know.
I'll tell you when it comes back on.
And then we have a koala bear, and then we have 2 dogs. Oh no, sorry, a dog and a rabbit.
A dog and a rabbit.
And one's called Duffy, and the other one's called, I can't read that. What's that?
Dobby.
Dobby. There we go. Right.
As in the house elf.
Yes, I'm a Harry Potter head. I love it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there we go. So we're exit solo that. Now you can perhaps see again now.
So what are those 2 on the left?
Yes. So the one that you said looks like golf tees is actually the vertical gardens in Singapore.
There you go.
I couldn't remember what pictures I put on it.
Golf tees, you see.
Yeah.
Tiger
and
Woods
what's the one above it? Is that Canada?
Yes.
Yeah. That's super. Yeah. There you go. We did quite well, actually.
I don't get to do it so much now, but I absolutely love traveling. So I decided to make my background a bit more Jodie-esque as well and put some pictures on, including my pets, as you saw. The koala's not my pet. That was part of my travels.
I was going to say, pet koala.
It's interesting you say traveling there and not doing it as much, but just sort of tying it back to what your organization sort of does, Jodie. I've sort of seen a couple of articles recently talking about really, really bad experiences that people with disability have had, particularly around airports recently. And just there was one I was reading, was it last night or this morning, and it was staggering. The story just went on and on. In terms of the catalogue of errors was just shocking that was this
Honestly,
person was experiencing.
The travel industry needs a massive shake up. And in fairness, it's not all travel organisations, because sometimes, for instance, it's land support, so that means it's down to the airport.
Yeah.
And there have been a couple of stories recently where in a particular London airport, people have literally been left on aeroplanes because there's no ground wheelchair or trained staff available to collect them. Now, you book, you have to book your accessibility support. This isn't a surprise. You haven't somehow flown onto the plane at one end and then you have to try and, get off the other end. It's beyond belief. And I have to say, I actually flew to Spain a couple of weeks back, and I was just so disappointed at how poor the service was for the people that needed support to actually board the plane. And it made such a spectacle of people. Now, some people are very resilient. They're like, you know what, kind of used to this, and they just get on with it. And one man, bless him, that by the time they took him to the plane, so they took him in a wheelchair, he had to try and squeeze past the queue of people they already had waiting in the tunnel, ready to get on. He looked mortified when they got him to the door ready to get off, because everyone had to stop boarding so that he could board. Which is fine. Well, I certainly think it's fine, but it's the fact that it was excuse me, trying to get him to where he needed to be. And to be honest, even the actual process of getting him from his chair onto the plane, it was clunky, it was awkward. I questioned the training. I was so wanted to go and offer support, but obviously, I'm a holiday maker, so I didn't. But he looked mortified. But to be honest, I was mortified on his behalf, because I just thought, in COVID, nothing was happening. It was a perfect time to revisit the things we knew weren't going so well in any organisation, in any, building. It was a brilliant time to retrain staff and to do all these kind of things. So to come back to flying now and see what I saw, and then to see the stories I keep seeing. Just yesterday, I saw one, a lady I'm connected with who's also a disability specialist. She's a wheelchair user and was actually on an internal flight in the States and was basically threatened with being arrested because her chair hadn't arrived at the other end.
That's the story.
She couldn't leave the plane. But they were saying, if you get in the way of the outgoing flight, you will be arrested.
And it was that story, Jodie. And there was a comment, the throwaway couple of sentences that stick in my mind was, the air stewardess was complaining that she was hungry and she couldn't get anything to eat until they'd got this lady off the plane. And it was like, And I think it took, if I remember the story rightly, it took the pilot who was flying the plane next to go downstairs and give the ground crew one hell of a telling off, shall we say, to get to pull their fingers out and sort it out. But as I say, there'd been that, but I'd read quite a few. It makes you start thinking, and I'm sort of thinking before I say this comment. Do the travel companies actually want people with disabilities to actually use their services? It makes you think. Do they make it so flipping awkward? Because they're all around. They're all about people on, people off, aren't they? That's the way that model works now. Is that lot go 10 minutes to hoover the plane, and the next lot, and it makes you start thinking: do they make it awkward that actually it puts people with a disability off?
Yeah, but the thing is that, and the thing that they're forgetting, and anyone forgets in any of these situations, is you've only got to do it right, and you will be the one company that everybody shouts about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's look at brand new aeroplanes, right? Brand new aeroplanes come out, they're not accessible. And I'm not talking about going to an absolute nth degree. We're talking about maybe a section of the plane or whatever. But what about the toilet? You've got long haul flights taking off without an accessible toilet. So, okay, let's say we're not going to have changing facilities. Okay, we're not going to have accessible changing facilities. We've got to be reasonable to a point. There's only so much space on an aeroplane.
Yeah.
Is that a toilet?
Yeah, right. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's 2022. I mean, why are we making aeroplanes that aren't fit for human consumption?
I love that. I love that. Now, so tell me, what little sneak peek so that we get people's interest up, right? And then we'll make sure we share on this as well later in the feed. We'll share the link so that people can go and find the podcast. Little snippet of what you talked to Stephen about.
How heavy human heads are.
Yeah. Oh,
we did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very heavy indeed.
I was thinking you were going to play a clip, and do you know that bit where you hear your own voice and you just do, oh no, I thought there was going to be some sort of little clip was going to come up there. So that's
we should have done that. That would have been
great. I used to hate hearing my own voice. I've got so used to it because of the podcast that I don't sound any better, but I'm over it now.
Okay, so if you want to discover how heavy the human head is and why it's important to make some adjustment for the weight of the human head, and obviously the cleverer you are, the more it weighs. Just think about that. All right. So if you're really intelligent today, you will want to go and listen to the podcast. If you're thick as two short planks, it might not bother you so much because there might just be air in there. But if you're really intelligent, you will want to go and listen to the podcast because your head will be full of mass, which is your brain. And that's why you will want to go and listen to it.
Right at the start of this thing today, Graham, you said you're really clever. So you must have an exceptionally heavy head in that case.
My head is so heavy that I need to listen to the podcast to get the information. All right. I'm going to listen to it because my head is so, but we know that most of the people that will listen to this throughout the day, they're incredibly intelligent, wonderful human beings. And therefore, because they're intelligent and they've got lots of brain mass, what if it's all bones, says David? Well, then you still need to listen.
Yeah.
But just in case, it's absolute massive brain in there, and that's why you're next in a bad position. You need to listen to the podcast. I'm gonna finish by saying, before we go into the game section, which Jodie, I hope you've got a mobile phone on you, smartphone.
I do, but I always lose at your games because you make them music orientated.
Oh no, it's not music orientated at all today. It's on the new Backer Elkhuizen website, which we're yes, absolutely, which has all changed.
All changed.
Stephen will tell us a little bit about that afterwards. But I'm going to say one more thing about inclusion. I'm going to say a big hurrah to Ed Sheeran, because and I didn't notice it at the time, but someone subsequently posted on it on social media. He had, at his gigs, he had a signer down the front signing everything that he sang.
Wow.
Yep. There we go.
In every country?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Well done, Ed
Love it.
Sheeran. Why can't more people do that? Come on, folks, especially if it's, nearly £100 a ticket. For nearly £100 a ticket, you can afford to pay a signer, can't you?
They absolutely can. And one of the recent podcast episodes was with Sophie from Sign Solutions, and we talk about how easy it can be.
There you go. So there's another podcast for you to check up on. All right, but yeah, let's do it, folks. If you're a speaker, it's a big event, etc. Get your signer down the front. Make it as accessible as possible to everybody. Yes.
Question here, sorry, and not being an area of my sort of expertise. Are there enough signers out there? If suddenly everyone, if corporate organisations jumped on board this, which is great, would there be enough people out there who could offer that type of service, or is it actually, do we need more people to train to be signers?
Well, this is interesting because there was a bit of news recently about BSL, which Jodie might tell us about, which means in the future there probably will be.
Well, it's because BSL is going to be a recognised language.
That's it.
And I mean, I recognise it as a language anyway, like I do all sign languages. But it's amazing actually how many sign languages are in use around the world. But that's just such a powerful thing. I mean, for a lot of people, BSL or, sign language, wherever they are, but BSL is their first language. And I think what hearing people often just really have no idea about is that sign language and local dialects, local spoken language, so like English, have got completely different grammar. So they're not a case of you sign as you speak. So it is like the two are like foreign languages to each other. But yeah, it's great stuff, and that time really. But I think it's a good point about the number of, and if you listen to the recent podcast episode with Sophie, you also hear how long it takes to qualify as a sign interpreter, and it's mind-boggling.
But here's the question for you then, right? Should children be given the option of learning it in school as a language?
Yes. And it shouldn't stop with Makaton. It should continue through school. The problem with schools is disability inclusion, accessibility, those things don't touch on the curriculum. And in most schools, they don't exist at all.
There you go. Right. David's right up for it. Quick. What's the link for the quiz? I want to fail spectacularly as usual. Well, we can't keep the man waiting and disappointed. So I'm going to share screen now.
Are we V-voxing it?
Make David feel better. He can't come last because I'm here.
Yes, we are V-voxing it. So I'm going to share screen. I'm going to present full screen, and I'm going to start this session in a minute. So you go to vevox.app, vevox.app. If you're watching this on repeat, the game has finished already, so you can't play. I've always wanted to say that. And the ID is 151 800 785. That number again is 151 800 785. Calls cost no more than your usual charge, and money goes to my pocket. Okay.
Please disregard that last comment.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to start today's session. Okay, here we go. Please submit your questions and like those sent by others. In this photo from the Backer website, where are the handcuffs? Now, you can draw on the screen for this one. This one, you can actually draw on the screen. For those that can't see the screen, we're now showing a picture of a man with his hands behind his head, sitting at a sit-stand workstation, looking at dual monitors on monitor arms. So let's show the results for this. Okay. Oh, great. There's 4 people playing, so I'm going to wait and see whether... Yes. Hello. Okay. Yes. Oh, so we got two for actually where his wrists are. One says in the pocket and one says attached to the side of the desk. Okay. The correct answer is, oh dear. Correct answer is there. Yes, we got 50% got it right. Yes, obviously they are on his wrist. So if you want to adopt that posture, at the desk. Obviously, clearly, you need to be wearing handcuffs. Right, in the UK, if you do a search for ergonomic companies in Google as of today, which of these companies comes top? Osman Ergonomics, Virtual Remote, Morgan Maxwell, Posturite, or Ergo Lego Masters?
No cheating.
No cheating. No,
Tricky.
no.
That's a tricky one.
Yes, isn't it? There we are. As of clearly, it's as of today. I did it literally 5 minutes before the show, and it's in Google. We've got one more person to answer. Let's see if they're going to answer in the next second or so. Yes, thank you very much. So we got little change of mind there. Yeah. So
changed again. Hello.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a split between Posturite and Osman Ergonomics. Exactly what you would expect. Let's close the poll and see what the correct answer is. As of today, it is Virtue Remote.
Really?
There you are.
Wow,
Yeah.
there you go.
Interesting.
Morgan Maxwell was actually second. Osman Ergonomics were third. There we go.
Where were Ergo Lego Masters?
They were
Fifth.
956.
Was that Posturite?
Not even on there. Not even on there.
Wow, I'm really surprised.
Really interesting. Guy, whoever works in their web departments, get your finger out.
Yeah.
There you go. What was Graham's poll asking about today on LinkedIn? Okay. So it being cheeky, the cost of living, the new Foles album, or ergonomics?
Do you know interest rates have gone up since this show started? I don't know if just to, impress everyone.
Well, interest in what?
Exactly.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Chris
Chris
Barlow's come in with a comment there, Graham.
Yeah, what's that? I can't see at the screen at the moment.
Virtue Remote is an advert, Posturite with a top result, according to him.
Well, yeah, it is an advert, but that's the top of the result, though. You see,
There you go.
Someone needs to do some paid advertising. Being cheeky, the cost of living, the new Foles album, or ergonomics. The correct answer was ready. Being cheeky. 50% of you got that right. Yes, absolutely. It's are you ever cheeky in terms of your comments on other people's posts on LinkedIn? Either of you two cheeky on people's posts?
Yeah, yes-ish.
Yeah, I think the general consensus was, and it's been a very, very popular post. I'm convinced that one will probably go into the tens of thousands, is that actually, yes, being a little bit cheeky, a little bit of humor on someone's post as an engagement really does get you noticed. So yeah, I think in general, in this country in particular, we do like a little bit of sense of humor.
Yeah.
Someone did make the comment that actually it doesn't necessarily translate to other countries, and I think they're absolutely right about that. For example, if you're in Holland, I mean, they have a sense of humor? Anyway,
yes, they do.
I'm joking. I'm only saying that because of where a certain person works. What is the headline?
From accessibility, sorry, just to bear in mind as well, comedy doesn't often compute, especially people who are on the autistic spectrum.
Thank you. That's a very good point as well. What is the headline on the Backer website? We create innovative solutions for your something workplace. Is it rubbish, optimal, inclusive, busy, or stunning? What's the correct
Stephen, you're playing, aren't you? It's cheating.
Yeah, but I usually do very well, Jody. So,
but it's whether or not he's actually looked at the website closely since it.
Well, I have, but I haven't studied it as in depth as you for these questions. So,
if you get this wrong, though, someone's calling you into their office.
Yeah. Okay.
P45.
I love that someone's actually put rubbish. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you could say that's the right answer. Because a lot of people do have rubbish workplaces, and your innovative solutions will still work if their workplace is rubbish. But the correct answer actually is, if we close the poll, optimal. Yeah, absolutely. So we're halfway through. On the home screen of the Backer website, it says, a world in which you work smart and feel good, a world in which smart work makes you feel good, a world in which work makes you feel terrible, a world in which you work smart and feel great, or I have no idea. I can't imagine it says I have no idea as your...
Can you imagine if it did?
Yeah.
Actually, I might just change my answer. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Which one is it? A world in which you work smart and feel good, a world in which smart work makes you feel good, a world in which work makes you feel terrible, a world in which you work smart and feel great. I have no idea. The correct answer is a world in which you work smart and feel good. Only one person got that right. It'll be interesting to see who that was in a minute. Let's have a quick look at the leaderboard to see where we're going. Oh, someone has 4 out of 5 so far. 2 people in second and the person in fourth. Let's have a look at the list. Oh, there you go. Mr. D.
I need a screenshot of this, because even if it's just now, I'm not at the bottom.
Yeah. I'm doing it right this minute. I'm taking a screenshot right at this minute.
Stop the quiz.
Just so so Stephen, you're leading at the moment, but it's all still to play for because we're only halfway through. Here we go. Right. Next one. What is the article on the Backer website associated with this image? Is it, I like office toys, making the right choices in terms of time management and ergonomics, the 10 most important benefits of time management, or the 10 benefits of time management for leaders? There we go. I think we've got one more. Yeah.
What are they called again? They've got a certain name, haven't they?
Something's Cradle, was it? Newton's Cradle.
Newton's Cradle.
There you go. So yeah, changing there. I like office toys has got a vote. Time management and ergonomics has got some votes. Okay, and the correct answer is that nobody got it right, because the correct answer is the 10 most important benefits of time management.
I changed it as well.
You see,
go with your gut reaction on this one, Jodie.
I know. You see, I thought if I put the term ergonomics in there, someone might think, nah, caught you all out. Right, couple more questions left. According to the Backer website, what percentage of employees say that they spend more than 40 hours a week in the workplace? Is it 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, or just David and Mildred? Whoever they may be. Do you know what? I know. You know who's voted for David and Mildred, don't you? Because he does this every week.
Our friend in the Middle East.
Yeah, to spectacularly lose. But there we go. So we have 50% saying 60%, 25% saying 70%. Let's close and have a look. The correct answer is actually 70%. It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
40 hours a week in the workplace. And do you know what's funny about that as well? If you think about that, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the amount of hours that they work.
No.
That's how long they spend in the workplace. Right? So if you consider that they may do some work, if they're in an office and they do some work outside at home every night or whatever, it's a long week that some people are working. Whether it's above 95 hours, which,
Goldman Sachs.
Would like everyone to work.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. What is the name of the new Foles album? One to allow anybody to come back and at least get a point here.
Where did it say, who are the Foles?
Who are the Foles? Who are the Foles? Live your life. Life is yours. Life for all. Someone was very quick off the mark there with her vote. Live for you, or Roses at Dawn. The deciding question this week. Yes.
My thought is it's going to be one of the top 4, and Roses at Dawn is going to be like their previous album. That's why it's like randomly put in. There's always an explanation for the random choice.
Yes,
you've been doing this too long with Graham, haven't you?
There is actually an explanation for the random choice. You're right. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. Okay, we've got 3 in. Last person to vote. Come on in, number 4. Your time is up. Do you remember when you used to go on, like, when you were young and you'd go, like you'd hire one of those paddle boats or whatever, and someone would stand at the edge of the water and go, "Come in, number 4. Yeah. Your time is up." It never happens these days, does it? No. They just that seemed to die. There you go. Roses at dawn. Someone's gone for the roses at dawn. The correct answer is, and people have done really well there, is life is yours. There you go.
I just went for the sheeple approach and went for people think that's I'll do it.
Absolutely. The Roses at Dawn is a reference to the fact that the album cover for that is actually the bonnet of a car with roses on it. There you go. That's the album cover. So yeah, there you go. So now you're well up on the new Foles album. Okay, so clear winner with 5 out of, well, not actually that clear at the end. Only 1 point ahead of the second place here, and we've got a very definite second and third and fourth today. With 5 out of 8, I'm presuming that's you, Stephen. Yes, it is. Jody, you're second. Well, I'm going to take.
Go on, get a photo
of that. It's the first time I've not been last.
Oh, Jody, I'm going to send.
Well
that to
done,
you.
Jody.
I'm keeping that.
Yeah, I should. Look, I'm going to send you that. You can laminate it, print it out, and put it on your wall.
I feel like I have to thank David for picking like the random answers for a bit of fun because he helped with my.
Well, I think you beat Chris in there as well, which actually is quite that's
without giving anything away. Chris is next week's guest, is he not, Graham?
Yeah, absolutely. Excelling as usual.
Yeah.
Oh dear, that's really funny. There we go. That's really, really funny. And I like it. It said, David also said, it's not fair. We should be told what it is beforehand so we can study. Yeah, but then, Oh, right, okay. Maybe one week we'll do one where I'll tell people what the subject is.
Yeah.
So that people can study it. And then I'll change it right at the last minute anyway.
Can you still put a random music one in there anyway? And then people like me go, who are they?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, it's good. It's good to it's good to acknowledge what's going on in the charts at the moment. There you are. There is for people that want to see. There is the new Foles album, and there's the bonnet with the roses on it. For people that can't see, I'm holding up the Foles album, which is white all around with Foles' "Life Is Yours," a bonnet and some nice pink roses. Lovely, much more poppy than their last album. Yeah, very good.
Is it a good album?
Very, very good indeed. They made a sort of couplet of albums previous to that, which followed on from each other, which were quite dark. But this is much more poppy and light, and obviously full of the joys of spring.
Maybe I'm gonna have to Google them now, aren't I?
Foles, yeah, definitely. If you've never heard of Foles,
I've been out on the road the last couple of days. Is it 2001? Their current single. It's called 2001. Is there a song on there called 2001?
Absolutely right, sir. Yes,
that's what I've heard. They've been across various networks.
And this was the previous one, 2 a.m.
Yeah,
2001. There you go.
There you go.
People still buy albums and not just download them.
Oh well, now that's a really good point that you've just made. Do they still buy albums or just download them? Just let me correct you on that terminology, because most people don't
buy them when you download them, but I mean physical.
No. Most people don't download at all.
Really?
So most people stream. So most people stream an album. Yeah. So they have a little box in the corner of the room, normally called Alexa, which a subject here for discussion, right? But a lot of people have started posting on that recently who have been called Alexa, saying how annoying it is if you're called Alexa when you go to a party or anything like that, because you stand there in the room and everyone goes, Alexa, and you're like, yes. Oh, you don't mean me. I mean, you'd go paranoid, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Listen. Yes, Alexa. Alexa, sing Happy Birthday.
I live in a terraced house, and sometimes next door set off my Alexa.
That's Alexa singing happy birthday.
There you go.
Alexa, shut up. Thank you. I think people enjoy that. I think it makes them feel that they've got a sense of power over something. But yeah, so most people don't actually physically own any music at all. It's a bit like going to a library. They literally just borrow it from the air, consume it, and then and it disappears. Actually, if people still downloaded music like they did at one point, remember sort of Napster and things like that, where people did actually download, then actually still people would be making more money from it. Occasionally people do download music from sites like Bandcamp, which is a great one for music artists, but in general the thing that's making a real comeback at the moment, Jodie, thanks for asking, is physical format, particularly vinyl. Actually, I've got some vinyl coming in the next day or so. I've got a big yellow and red vinyl coming, sunburst effect, from an artist called Circuit Free.
I can post a picture of it now when it comes, aren't you?
It looks a little bit like the background that we've got on here at the moment with the kind of yellow and red. That's what the vinyl actually looks like. Colour vinyls are really becoming quite popular. I think people are getting fed up of just digital stuff. I think people like
a CD in years.
Have you not?
No.
Oh, they're great.
I use ALEXA, and I also download to my phone so that if I haven't got reception, I can still play it at the gym.
There you go. Oh, Dave has just made the point. Alexa is 7 years old. I wonder how the popularity of the name for girls has increased, or has it decreased? Are less people calling their daughter Alexa on the basis that they know it also refers to a little black dot in the corner of the room? I wouldn't call my daughter Alexa. Imagine that. Poor kid. You can rename your said object as well. Yes.
But doesn't it only have two options? It is the A word or it's one other thing.
No, you can actually, if you know what you're doing, you can completely rename it. Ooh, which could be really quite interesting. Yeah. I've got one called Alexa, and I've got one called Asa bin Laden. It's all good fun. It's all good fun. I want to have one at Christmas time called Father Christmas. That would be good, wouldn't it? Father Christmas, play me top Christmas songs.
Does it then reply though in like a deep voice of a bloke who's about 75 then, as opposed to that sort of normal voice, or does the voice always stay the same?
I think the voice always stays the same. I don't know if you can change the voice on it. That'd be interesting.
David says no sheeples will use it. So I'm a sheeple. I am today because I copied someone's answer. But I would use it.
Yeah. There you go. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us today, Jodie. Just before you go, just so people know where to go to listen to the wonderful thing that is you talking to Steve and Howe later tonight, where will they go to get that?
So they can find it on whatever platform they prefer, and it is Be People Smart is the name of the podcast. And there's already several episodes out there, so check them out. And of course, you're obviously a fan of Stephen because you're here. So Thursday, you get to hear him again.
There you go.
And
lucky everyone.
Can I say, people, because there's a different guest every week, and it's interesting and it's useful information about inclusion, etc. Can you subscribe to that podcast as well? All right?
Please do. And when you listen, please leave feedback, because we only know what else you want or how well we're doing if we can see it. So it's always good to get a ranking as well.
Yeah. Do you do polls for your podcasts?
Pass. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, well, you can. I'll have to talk to you about that. One of the things you can do is polls for your podcast. In fact, I've done some polls for Wow Ergonomics one in the past as well. It's quite interesting. You can ask a question of the audience listening.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay, this is education for me.
Get some feedback and get some response. Just a quick plug for that as well. If you want to listen to previous episodes of Wow Ergonomics, and which will include this one here, and listen all again to Jodie, Stephen, and me making fun of the back website and various other things as well, then you can at wowergonomics.com, where all of the previous episodes are available for your pleasure and delight. Until next week, when we'll be back with, as you say, guest Chris Barlow.
Chris Barlow.
Not from because Chris Barlow, his name, it always makes it sound as though he's from some kind of soap opera. I think.
I think you're thinking of Ken Barlow.
Ken Barlow. So Chris Barlow always sounds like his son. Do you know what I mean?
His son's called Peter Barlow, but I think here you go. Peter Barlow is played by a guy whose first name is Chris. So it all sort of just goes round in a circle, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to leave you on this.
So random.
David has gone and looked it up. Go to babynames.com. Alexa has plummeted in popularity. There we go. Don't call your baby Alexa for obvious reasons. Oh dear. Amazon have sport it forever for that name, haven't they? Until next week, take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.